Welcome back to another video in my Who is Tasha Jackson series. So today I'm going to be talking about how did I become an entrepreneur? Because Tasha and her stories. So back in 2020, it feels like forever ago. So as you all know, I am an educator, or for those of you that are just tuning in now. So I have been an educator for over 15 years. Side note, I've studied plant medicine for 22 years now, and I have been an entrepreneur for over 2. And so what? And so again, a lot of the questions, the Who is Tasha Jackson series are all of the questions that people want to know about me, because I have a lot of experiences that I can draw from that I like to share with others, because I find that they're either inspirational or educational in some kind of form or fashion, which is another reason why I'm bringing these videos to you. And so the question of how did I become an entrepreneur? So, again, going back to childhood, I never really considered myself to be an entrepreneur. And thinking about it, I was like, you know what? I really did have some very early experiences of being an entrepreneur. I had some, Kool-Aid stand, lemonade stand, selling some of my art things for 10 cents or a nickel, something like that, back in the early 90s. Whenever you would sell things for such prices, especially as a kid. Making crafts was like a big thing. The majority of my aunts, okay, so I grew up in a family, or was raised by a family where the women were stay-at-home moms, or they stayed home, and the men went out and they worked, but they all had these like side hustles. So I won't name any in particular, but lots of MLMs. Okay, so just go back to the MLMs that were really popular in the 80s and the 90s. And my family was very thoroughly engrossed in many of those endeavors. And so I attended, plasticware parties, makeup parties, um, you know, adult themed parties. Okay, lots of different types of parties where I was exposed to women that were, having their own business, and they were set up as entrepreneurs, including my mom, right? So my mom also ran the MLM gamut. But I never really thought of any of those things, right, as, things that I wanted to do, because I don't know, I just wasn't interested in those things, because I was like all about science and knowledge, and I was on this quest, and so it wasn't really something to me that I was really interested in, because I think that mostly it was because I wanted to do something very different than what I was raised with. Okay. And so, I essentially, kind of rejected that idea of becoming an entrepreneur. Or, and then it was like, well, what would I do anyway? What is my talent is learning. Like at that time, I was like, I'm not artistic enough. I don't have my artistic talents developed enough to really, sell art or become, go into an art show or things like that. And so it was basically like, okay, well, telling people facts, no one will pay for that. So now it's a huge business, consultation and mentorship, which, by the way, I offer 1-hour consultations. That's a big thing now, right? Sharing your experiences is now a big thing. It's something it's really valued. And so And so I'm on that bandwagon now. But so fast forward through when I was a Girl Scout troop leader, I had kind of my first experience. I was a Girl Scout, so I had that kind of, you know, being an entrepreneur like as a kid, right? Doing like again, selling crafts, selling Kool-Aid, selling lemonade, things like that. Selling Girl Scout cookies, right? And then as I got older, it was just kind of like a thing that I rejected. I was like, no, it was actually with teaching. I did the same thing. I was like, there's no way I would become a teacher, at first. And then I was like, I love this. And this is how it is with becoming an entrepreneur at this point. So it just fits me now. And what is it? Edupreneur or something like that is I think is what it's called. An educator who's also an entrepreneur. Most teachers have two jobs, and their second job is their side hustle, that they have their own business. And so I went, um, from being a very staunch, like there's no way, to absolutely, yes, this is what my calling is now, is to help others, educate others, inspire others, and helping them to realize their goals and their dreams just as I did in my own classroom, right? And so 2020, I just was sick of teaching, to be honest. It just became an industry that I no longer resonated with. My heart wasn't there. I had watched teachers that were teaching for 20, 25 years that were just there to collect a paycheck. They weren't really making a difference. And that's just not who I am. I'm the type of person that, whenever I'm involved with people, I really want to help people to make whatever changes in their life they want to make, including, kids that were in my class as second graders. I had them write out writing goals at the beginning of the school year, and we would work on them through the school year, the things that they wanted to develop and the things that they wanted to improve. And so that's really where I had student-centered learning, which was, what are your goals and how do we achieve those goals? But at the same time, how do I help you become the best version of yourself? And so now I've taken that into becoming an entrepreneur. So in 2019, I had enough. I was like, how do I change careers? How do I get out of this? This is not serving me. I'm not serving students the way that I need to be serving students. And I'm not going to be one of those teachers that shows up every day and I hate my job and I don't want to be here and the kids know it, right? That's not who I am. I put myself wholeheartedly into whatever endeavors I am in. And so if my heart is not 100% in it, I can't partake in that. And so I was looking for an opportunity, and I came across this magazine. And in the magazine, it was like, do you want to work from home? And do you want to do like editing and proofreading, things like that? And I was like, oh yeah, sure. So I called the ad, the phone number of the ad. And the lady that answered the phone was talking to me about owning my own business. And I'm like, what? I don't want to do that. That doesn't sound fun. But I was like, you know what? I'm just going to close my eyes. I'm going to hold my nose and I'm going to jump off into the deep end. And I'm just going to see where it goes. And so that was the beginning of the journey. I just was like, you know what? I wanted to make a major change in my life. I prayed about it, and this is what showed up. Can I say no if you pray about something and it shows up? Even if it's not in the form or the way that you had expected, do you say no? No, you just do it. So that was me kind of, responding to that whole, okay, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do this. And so I was going to become a publisher of that magazine. And so I was learning the ropes. And I was, learning how to own my own business. And so the owner of that franchise, of that magazine, she was, mentoring me in how to run the business from the ground up. And unfortunately, that business, COVID claimed that business. So I was not able to fully purchase that business before we had to shut down operations, unfortunately. However, also during that time, I had picked up some freelance work where I was building a course for a very, very small startup, very small, one person. And essentially, during COVID, she came on. We had met through Zoom, and she basically was like, I had a course designer, and because of COVID, that person quit. I have to take all my courses online because the training that I was doing was all in person. And she was living in California, and California was one of the more strict states for quarantine and lockdowns. And so she's like, I can no longer do my in-person live trainings. So I'm going to have to shift everything online. Can you do it? I'm like, yeah, of course. I've been teaching for a really long time. I can build an online course, in my sleep. So through that process, through that freelance opportunity, it turned into I was offered a position as vice president in her company. So I accepted. I formally quit teaching. And the other reason why I formally quit teaching, and there are a lot of single moms out there that will really resonate with this. And hold on, let me turn off this light, because the sun is now down enough. Don't need to have that light on. Okay. So one of the things that a lot of single moms especially will really resonate with is when the pandemic started and whenever we went into quarantine, I had my own classroom. And at the very beginning of the pandemic, I had a kindergartner and a second grader. So I had to run my own classroom. So I was expected to run my own classroom. And at the same time, I was supposed to assist my kindergarten son and my second grade daughter in their online studies. And you can imagine how difficult that was. Many of you educators are not. And let me tell you, kudos to all of the parents that are not educators. I struggled. I don't know how I did it. I couldn't, honestly. I had to quit, right? But I had the opportunity, I had the options to quit. But for many parents, they had to work at home online, and they had to be with their kids as well. And it was really chaotic. It was really stressful. And I was not a model parent during that time because of the amount of stress. And so knowing that the pandemic was not going to end in the summer, I had decided to embrace becoming an entrepreneur in order to better serve my own children. And so I made that really difficult decision as a single parent that I would leave teaching in order to be there for my kids whenever they started first grade and third grade the following school year. And so that was really 2020 was really the start of my journey in entrepreneurship, because in essence, I was forced out of my profession, but also my heart was no longer there. And so becoming an entrepreneur and being able to work from home freed up a lot of my time, and also especially a lot of my energy to help my children the way that they needed to be helped, and also to develop a different relationship with my children. And I will do a parenting video later, but this is a huge part of the reason why I became an entrepreneur. This is my personal story, but I'll talk about parenting in another video. And so, or my experience, my adventures in parenting. And so that really was the deciding factor. It was, I already wanted to leave teaching, but now I need to, because I have to become a full-time caregiver for my kids because my kids were at home on the computer. And how am I supposed to, and my kids' school schedule was 7:30 in the morning until 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And then my work schedule for my students was 9 in the morning. So I had to report it was like 8:30, 8:45, something like that. I had to report, and would have morning meetings and things like that at about 8:30. And then I would not finish my day. Our bell ended at 4, but then my contract hours were until 4:15. So essentially, I would have had 2 hours of time where I would still be working, and I had a first grader and a third grader, just like, what are they going to do? Right. But then still had to have all my staff meetings, my department meetings, my team meetings, the IEPs, the 504 meetings, all of those things I was expected to do as if I were in the actual physical building. And that to me was going to be something that was impossible with the schedule that my own children had and the schedule that I had for work. And so I finally made the decision that I was like, there's no way that I can maintain that. And instead of me quitting in the middle of the school year, quitting at the beginning of the school year, and really, that's a very strong disservice to students. I decided to go ahead and quit at the end of the school year and not renew my contract for the following school year. And so kind of off I went. I was working on being the publisher, like I said, of that magazine, learning the ropes of entrepreneurship. But at the same time, I also was learning how to be vice president of a company. And I learned a lot. I really did. I learned an extreme amount in that very short period of time, 2 years. We took that startup from a local startup in San Diego to global. We merged with a couple of other companies, and I had a lot of executive functions within that company, and I just really fell in love with with not just being able to not just having the ability to manage my own energy, my own time, my own space, having the flexibility to pick up my kids, especially whenever they were sick. Because whenever my kids were sick and I had to pick them up, then I had to call the office. They had to get a sub. Sometimes I took time, and my sick child is in the nurse's office at school. I would feel really guilty, all of those things. Now I have the ability to go and pick up my kids whenever they were sick, take care of them, take time off if I needed to, work in various locations. I actually am going to do some bullet points of why being an entrepreneur is just, the best thing that you can do if that's something that you're thinking about or considering. And I do have a course for small startup business mentorship, and then also you can book a one-to-one consultation with me. And so everything that I learned about being an entrepreneur, and especially running a startup to a global company in 2 years, I can share with you all of that. And my resume is available upon request always. That information is not a secret, for anyone or from anyone. So if you're, interested in that, I'm happy to pass off my resume to you to see all of the services through. I offer services based on what I learned from my resume. So if you're interested in things that are not on listed, then we can work on other things too. And so, I was able to develop a very wide range of skills, including podcasting, video editing. The only thing that I really don't like doing is accounting. I'm not a fan. Maybe some of you out there love numbers in that form or fashion, but to me, that kind of thing is kind of grueling and not the fun part. I just like to, meet with people and help guide people on their journey. And so really essentially how I became an entrepreneur. And then, um, unfortunately, I had become sick with COVID, and then I ended up getting long COVID. And then through just some happenstance, I resigned from my position as VP of that company. They were going in a direction. The CEO, she was taking the corporate route, and I am not a corporate person, and so that was no longer aligned with what I wanted for myself. And so I resigned from that position, and then I took time to heal. I'll do another video about me having long COVID and how I was able to overcome that for the most part. I still have to manage my energy and my diet in a different way, but I manage. And so now, I'm really at this important juncture in my life where I said, you know what, I need to take everything that I've learned from my experiences and I need to teach that to others. I need to take my teaching and my experiences, combine them together to further educate and inspire others. And so, here, on this channel, I'm hoping that you guys really can get that practical, experiential guidance from me, that I'm hoping to achieve. And so thank you so much. You can always reach out to me, naturallyinspiredmedia.com. On the contact page, just submit through the contacts and I will respond, hopefully in a timely manner. And you can always book a consultation with me, see some of the courses that I have available, look at what's coming up next, continue to monitor or watch the channel. I'll have podcasts there as well. And so hopefully all of the experiences that I have had, other people can benefit from it as well. Thank you so much for listening, and I will see you in the next video. Hi. If you like the content that I create, please do make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. And check out my website, naturallyinspiredmedia.com, and some of the other videos that I have produced here.